What's up, fight fans? And we're back at it with another edition here at Round One Sports TV. I am your host, Edwin, and we are going to be getting into some of the biggest, hottest topics and some of the biggest fights of the year. So I encourage you to join me while I film this episode of Round One Sports Talk. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, give the video a like. And if you want to be notified for future videos, just click that bell icon and it'll alert you anytime I drop a video. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. Where do all fights start? At round one. Well, we got a lot to talk about. As I shift through here and I get ready, I'm starting this new software here and new ways of doing things. So please bear with me right now. I'm just gonna set up some things. What's up, Randy? How you doing? I got the chat thing on now, baby. Ha ha. Yeah. All right, let's see if I can just keep it on the screen now. It's like I can. What's going on? Okay. All right, here we go. We're gonna keep it over here then. Fine. What's up, guys? How you doing? So let's talk about what's been going on in the sport of boxing. One of the biggest stories right now is Floyd Mayweather going back and forth with Devin Haney, Bill Haney's father. Now, look, I saw the video, and at some point in the video, I had to turn it off, and then I turned it back on, and I got myself to watch the rest of it. It's a little embarrassing watching both of them go back and forth. That is a legend, Floyd Mayweather. And just because he's a legend in boxing doesn't mean you have to kiss his ass, okay? But he is who he is. And Bill Haney is someone's father. He's Devin Haney's father, the WBC champion of the world, okay? Now, I can clearly tell in the phone call there were a lot of tempers, flaring and a lot of emotions and a lot of things wanting to be said. Both parties were trying to keep their composure in the beginning, but there's so much history behind their voices that you can see a lot of it coming up. I think that Floyd Mayweather, there's a part of him that sincerely wants to give Devin Haney help. The problem is Bill Haney is trying to say the type of help that Floyd gives. It comes with a price. Whether that's Floyd taking all credit, or like, he's always arrogant and flamboyant. So it's hard to really work with a man like that because you would have to give him like, I guess a lot of recognition. I don't really know, Floyd like that, but I can hear it in Bill Haney's voice that, he wanted to show Floyd that he wasn't, that the Haneys don't need him. That's pride talking. And in fact, the Haneys can use all the help they can get, because in this sport, the thing is when you stop growing, you stop evolving, the sport doesn't stop. And I'm not saying that Floyd Mayweather is the only game in town, and that you have to go to him, but it's good to have people like that. Does Floyd lending you a hand come with a price where that you have to sign with him or that you have to agree to sign to his promotional company? Well, then perhaps no. But if there's a way where that, Bill Haney and him can work it out where he could just pay him, and his coaches, to help his son out, you know, um, Floyd Mayweather, there's a part of him, I know it. I know he's a real competitor, but there has to be a part of him inside. I would love to believe that he sees Devin Haney as a young American superstar, and you would want to help one of your guys. If you're gonna help anybody, help one of your guys out, you know, um, for your country, And I can see that when Floyd was trying to reach out to Bill Haney, he was trying to like, you know, tell Bill Haney in other words, I don't really got any problems with you. Why don't we talk about working out something with your son so that he could come this way, right? And Bill Haney has seen how Floyd Mayweather operates and how he has treated people in the past. So with all that, and the fact that his son fell, there's a lot of pride. You can tell that Bill Haney is a real prideful man. And he said a lot of things leading into that fight against Ryan Garcia. He was going to send his son out there to kill Ryan. That the type of job he was going to send his son out there to do, they better have an ambulance on standby. And lo and behold, someone else took that massive ass whooping. You know, so you can see that you know Devin Haney and his father, they have a lot of work to do. You know, it was evident. You could not hide from the fact that Devin Haney was exposed in a certain area in his fight, his fighting style. He If you can't deal with brute force, that's a hole in your fighting style. You have to be able to deal with brute force, speed, movement. You know what I mean? You have to have patience, ring IQ, to be a complete fighter. And I've always said this on my channel. That's why I always said that Devin Haney wasn't a polished fighter. And I got a lot of criticism for that, but I stand it on that. And look what happened. And it doesn't make Ryan Garcia any elite of a fighter than what he already was. No, he's not that fighter. Ryan Garcia, he's good, but like I commented it this morning on my afternoon live, that I started to notice that Ryan Garcia was the real weight bully in all of these situations. Ryan Garcia hasn't made weight in like his last three fights because he's that real big guy that's trying to fight in these lower weight divisions and he can't make the weight. So to divert you from what's to see what's really going on, they're making all these ploys. But if you pay attention, he had a fight. Tank Davis had a catch weight because he couldn't make that weight. He had another fight that he came in right where he knocked the dude's tooth out, right? That fight was scheduled for 140 pounds. He had to go back and make it 143. This fight with Devin Haney was scheduled at 140. He didn't make the weight. What weight did he come in at? 143. He could never make these weights. He was already too big for these divisions. But they want you to ignore all of that, right? And when they called Devin Haney a weight bully for fighting Lomachenko's the one that chose to move up. Lomachenko's the one that asked for the smoke. How could you call Devin Haney a weight bully when you guys requested this fight? He gave you what you asked for. Give Loma a shot. He gave Loma a shot. He beat him. They call him a weight bully. It's unbelievable, you know. So um, what's up, guys? What's up, Richard? What's up, Rob? And so in a sense, I already know where Ryan Garcia is headed. He's already announced it. He announced it after the fight. He said he's moving up. He can no longer make the 140. They asked him, will there be a rematch with Devin Haney? Ryan Garcia shut that down on multiple interviews. He says, no, I'm done. I'm finished with this. I'm moving on. This chapter is over with. He can't make the weight anyway at 140. So if he gets the rematch, the belt's not going to be on the line again for Devin Haney. And Devin Haney is the 140-pound champion. He's not moving up to 147. So, and I talked about this, who could Ryan Garcia potential opponent be at 147 due to the fact that I really strongly believe the WBC will strip Terence Crawford for his WBC 140-pound title of the world because he's moving up right now to fight at 154-pound against Israel. Right, so that card it will be taking place. I talked about that this afternoon too. If you want, go check out that video. So, um, you know, that's where I see Ryan Garcia ending up. Who his opponent was is going to be, that I'm not too sure of. There's a lot of good names at 147 we can throw around. You know, um, I think stylistically, right? Mario Barrio against Ryan would be a good fight. Mario Barrio and Ryan, they got that kind of like, and they're both tall too, nicely length. They're both, both fight pretty long and tall. So I think that would be a good matchup right there. Uh, but but we can see that Isaac Pitbull Cruz is not wasting any time. He's really not. He got this belt, and he's gonna start to put some fights together. The PBC is being rumored that they're starting to tear down the walls over there, where they're going to start to work with like other boxing promoters and like Ed Hearns, Oscar De La Hoya, and them, and they're going to be really putting together some of these big fights. And let's talk about some of these big fights that are coming up. Okay, so we have Saul Canelo Alvarez. Saul Canelo Alvarez is going to be making an undisputed title defense at the 168-pound weight division. He's putting on the line all four belts and representing Mexico. Okay. Saul Canelo Alvarez, you know, he really needs no introduction, into the sport of boxing. It seems like he's been around forever. He's only 33 years old. He's headed going past 60 fights already. So, he has a lengthy boxing career. So he's putting it all on the line against Jaime Munguia. Now, many fight critics say that this is not the fight we should be watching. In fact, he should be fighting David the Monster Benavidez, right? Okay, and I agree. But we're getting this fight right here. And right here, Mexico is fighting Mexico. So whoever stands to win in this fight, Mexico would either get and the new or and still. Okay. This is a big opportunity for Jaime Munguia. Not every day you get that call for four belts, let alone one belt. Jaime Munguia pulls this off, he goes to the Hall of Fame, 100%. Mexico got um a lot riding in the month of May. In the month of May, technically, they have three fighters that are fighting for four belts. Yes, they do. They have three Mexican fighters in the month of May alone fighting for four belts. Each of them are fighting for four belts. How's that possible? Saul Canelo Alvarez has four belts. He's fighting for them. He's going to defend them. Jaime Munguia has an opportunity to win four belts. He's fighting for them. And Luis Pantera Nari, he's fighting for four belts in the month of May. Three Mexican fighters are all stand to win four belts just in the month of May. So Jaime Munguia, you know, he wins this fight. Where Saul goes from there, I'm pretty sure he's probably going to have a rematch claw in there. That'll take some time to develop. Jaime Munguia would have to beat him twice to get away from Saul Canelo Alvarez so that he can fight another person other than Saul Canelo Alvarez. And I'm not sure if that would entice other fighters just to come down because it's being reported that David the Monster Benavidez is moving up to 175 pounds and he's anticipating on fighting on Javante Davis's card to get a tune-up fight to stay ready, right? So that he can challenge the winner of Demetrius Bivol, right? And Arthur Benavidez, right? Now, they're fighting for a unification fight of their own. Arthur has three belts and Demetrius Bivol has one belt. Okay. So when the smoke all clears on that, we're gonna have an undisputed champion at the 175-pound weight division. So, you know, that's I believe it's in the works, and they're talking about it, that David will be next in line at a shot. He'll be first in line at a shot at all the four belts, whichever man stands to win. So that's what's being reported right now. In a good world, that all happens. I'm not sure. You know, you know, in boxing, they say a lot of things, and things are subject to change and move around. Like right now, it's being reported that Tim Zoo, in fact, is getting put in the card in August with Terence Crawford, which is really good because that's going to spice that card up, which that card is on fire by itself. Like I said, I made a video this morning about it. If you want to check it out, you can check it out. And so another big fight in which I talk about the Mexican Luis Pantera Nares standing to win four belts, he will be making that title, well, undisputed title fight, May 6th in the Tokyo Arena in Tokyo, Japan. And he's going to be fighting the one and only Naoya the Monster Inoue. Now, you know, when you speak of a fighter such of Naoya Inoue, he really sets himself above a lot of different kind of fighters in the world. He is what I considered a complete fighter in all areas. You know, he can fight power, he can fight speed, he has phenomenal footwork and placement. He seems to be in the right place at the right time, and he's always throwing, it seems like, the right punch. His selection of punches, and he doesn't play around with a lot of you know, his lot of his opponents, but he has been known to switch up his style and even favor the fighter that's standing in front of him. He looks at what they're doing, and it seems like he turns right into them and he beats them at their own game. There are very few fighters that can do that, you know, and I've talked about this. There's levels to this in this game of boxing. And when you talk about levels to break it down, there's good boxers, and a good boxer will have you figured out 6, 8 rounds. A good boxer, a great boxer will have you figured out between 3 and 5 rounds. That's a great fighter. An elite fighter will have you figured out in the moment. You mess up and make that wrong move in front of him, he's gonna hit you. You see, that's an elite fighter. Naoya Inoue is an elite fighter. There's not too many mistakes he's going to allow you to get away with. And, not all boxers understand reading another fighter. Some fighters just fight off of instinct, other fighters are just flowing. They're not really thinking about their opponent. They're just getting off their offense and trying to set their traps and work on their timing and distance. But, also paying attention to the guy in front of them. He knows he has two hands, but he's not making the kind of reads this kind of fighter is making. He's doing things in there. He jabs one way, and he wants to see how you react. How did you push back? Did you push back or did you lean forward? Is while the rounds are going on, is your chin going down further and further? Are you getting tired? Are your arms getting lower? He's making those kind of reads, and he will take what you gave him. Um, Look, he's everything I like in a fighter and more. And I talk about these kind of fighters right here because when you talk about the face of boxing, men like Terence Crawford, men like him that are not in social media, all the time, creating a must. Terence Crawford had a couple, bumps here and there, not like this guy. You've just never heard anything about him, and he truly lets his hands speak for him in the ring. He's a class act in and out of the ring. And when you look him up as, young men and women that want to venture into the sport of boxing and you want to study a fighter, he would be a fighter I would introduce to my class. Not only is he good at what he does, but he's a professional through and through. And to me, that's the face of boxing. Men and women like that, that don't have to make mockery, not like some of these fighters, you know, um, and all these antics to try to sell a fight. He doesn't do any of that. So, when a fighter comes along, he has the killer mentality of a Michael Jordan, but the kindness of a Brady. He's a real weird blend. When you're in a sport that aggression and violence is awarded, although he treads like um, he's out on a sunset beach and he's just feeling the breeze. He's truly got like this face leading into the fights, like he doesn't have a care in the world. He knows who he is. He understands who he is. He's a champion, and he's a real champion. If you don't know much about him, listen, he has 26 fights, I believe 23 knockouts. He's a four division world champion, and he currently has all four belts at 122 pounds. He's the second man in the world to unify all four belts in a four belt era in two separate weight divisions. Yeah, that's what kind of champion he is. Yeah, there's not a lot of champions today besides Terence Crawford that can say things like that, you know? And it seems like I'm watching Sammy Sosa and Mark McGuire in the home run derby, but they're doing it in boxing right now. Each time they're trying to up one each other. Naoya Inoue and Terence Crawford. Now, Terence Crawford is going to fight at 154 pounds for the WBC world title. Okay, let's get that in the picture. Okay. Um, and he's gonna be fighting Israel, right? That's a real big important fight because that's one piece to the puzzle. Terence Crawford, I believe, he's gonna try to unify all four belts at 154 pounds. And truly, if his skills can do it, why don't you allow these men to try to do it? There should be a thing that you know, all champions, if challenged, you got to honor the challenge. Like all kings. How could you be saying you're the best and you're the king when someone challenges your throne? You don't answer. This should be one of those situations where, Terrence Crawford's been side railroaded in his career so long, and all the amount of effort that it took to hunt down Errol Spence Jr., 6 years, man, right? And he should at this point in his career, they should just like making an agreement. Look, if you can beat all the champions one by one, well, after you beat that guy, you'll fight the next one. After you beat him, they'll fight the next one. After you beat him, and etc. And let's see if he can really do it. Let's see if his skills, if he could have really done it. Because some of these champions go down great champions, but they could have been way better champions had it not been for the politics and the promotional companies and networks not wanting to work with each other. Mayweather is one of the greatest champions of all time, and he never was an undisputed champion in his career. He got close. He got close one time. He had three belts in one division, right? He was about to try to fight, but he saw that they weren't going to fight him. And he wasn't going to stall out his career for you. So he said, I'm going to move up into better things. See, back in Mayweather's time, it was really the Wild Wild West, but there was a lot of money to be made in those times. So it was a lot different. Boxing's cleaning up now, and a lot of people are starting to like try to get along so that they can give us these big fights, that we crave. Let me read some of your messages. I think Naoya will drop Naoya. Nery's in the fourth round. Play with him. Yes, I talked about this in previous videos about Naoya Inoue and Luis Pantera Nares, right? Listen, my honest assessment. My true honest assessment, if there wasn't something in the background in this fight, this fight not been a little bit personal for Japan, I would agree with you. In fact, I would double down that Lewis doesn't make it out of past 2 rounds. I don't think he's a better fighter than Emmanuel Rodriguez, and he dispatched Emmanuel Rodriguez in 2 rounds. Okay? I don't think Luis Pantera Nares is a better fighter than Nonito Donaire. Not even old ass Donito Donaire. Donito Donaire will rock Luis Pantera Nares, bro. And the Japanese superstar knocked him out within 2 rounds. If we were talking that this thing that happened with Luis Nares in Japan didn't happen, bro, there's no way you can convince me this fight would even last 4 rounds. He's out of here in one. In 1 round, he's out of here. But the fact that all that shit took place in Japan, I think Japan wants to teach Mexico a lesson. And that's where my analysis fluctuates. How do you teach a man a lesson? You don't knock him out in 1 or 2 rounds. You drag him out throughout the rounds and you punish his ass. And for Japan to see. And when they give him that nod, all like the big wigs in Japan, they give him the nod from the outside, finish him. Then he's going to finish him. That's how I kind of see it playing out in my head. The only reason Luis Nari, if you're watching the fight and he's still around past the 4th round, the only reason why I would believe he's in the fight is because he's allowing him to drag him along, so that all of Japan sees the lesson that was taught in that ring to Luis Pantera Nares for being kicked out of Japan, right? Disrespecting Japan and their people, okay? So, how do you teach a lesson? You don't tell the best fighter in the world. Japan should be supremely confident that Naoya Inoue is the right man to pull off this job. And if I had Naoya Inoue in my stable of fighters and came across something like this, I would be supremely confident that my boy can control the action, control the fight, give him the proper ass whooping, and when we're feel like he took enough damage, finish him. That's what's that's what I'm thinking. You see, that's why I'm not, you know, oh, listen, in a regular fight, had it just been a regular opponent, I don't give him 1 round. I don't give him 1 round. How? Where do you see this guy lasting 1 round against a fighter like that? Where? There's been better fighters that didn't last 1 round with him. Way better fighters. Fucking Donaire had 21 years experience and got dropped in the 1st round. Do you really? And his defense is tighter. Yo, and he, even at that age, he moved, was faster and slicker than Luis Pantera Nares is right now. Hell yeah, bro. Are you like, he's gonna rock this dude. But when? That's where I'm at. I don't know when. I don't know what he wants to do to him. He can truly pull it off. He's the type of fighter, he can control the fight. He can give him that proper ass whooping. Yes, he can. He's the right man to pull that kind of fight off. Yo, go out there and teach him. You don't go out there and knock him out 1 round. What did you teach him? He got knocked out, got his money, got on a plane and left. What's up? All right. I believe he's got a shot to beat Crawford. Listen, listen. Okay, I understand he only has 10 fights, right? Israel, right? So I'm watching his fights, right? He has, so I was like, how is he so good? So I had to go digging up a little bit more. He has an extensive amateur career, okay? Like a lot. So I was watching him in his fighting style, and I was like, wow, wait a minute. Could this be another case where, being a little too big and strong will shut down the skill? Terence Crawford would fight a lot better than Devin Haney in that kind of say. It's not going to look like that. Don't automatically think, because that's in fresh in your head and you're going to go to that. It can look like a different fight, but it was the same thing happening. You understand? Terence Crawford could look slicker. He can look sharp. He can connect with his punches on Israel, but Israel might be too big and strong and just weather the storm. He'll be able to take his punches, move through that, and he is what I call crafty. Israel. He's crafty, you know? So, um, that's a dangerous fight for Terence Crawford. Now, depending on what kind of performance he puts on, he goes in there and he wipes this guy down. You might as well just hand him the rest of the three belts. Just line up and just bow and hand them to him because then I would just be like, huh? He if he wipes him down in August, I would recommend that he would get in that ring as soon as possible. As soon as possible. Terence Crawford. Don't get in the rhythm of fighting in a year. I know there's a pattern. He fought one time for the last 5 years, but he's close out your career strong. You can do it. Terence Crawford can do it, man. He can do it. I'm not too sure all the champions will just line up to fight him. That's me in a good world, but um Israel is strong, man. He is strong. He is strong. I'm gonna break down that fight as we get closer. We're gonna talk more about that fight. Saul Canelo Alvarez. What do you guys really think? Do you really think this kid Jaime Munguia is? I know he's a live dog, and I don't. He a puncher's chance. Yeah, he's got a puncher's chance. But realistically, do you guys see him winning, and how? Like, and no, this is a legitimate question. I'm not being a wise ass or anything. I want to see more insight. About Jaime Munguia. See if you guys can get my confidence up a little bit. You know, because I view the fight in my head. And each time I view it in my head, because I think I'm still a prisoner in a moment a little bit when it comes to Saul Canelo Alvarez. For God's sake, he gave us a lot of moments, at least in my household. I have a lot of memories of cheering for Saul Canelo Alvarez. Yes, I do. I'm not gonna front. There was a lot of times oh yeah, he's a Latin fighter. We back him too. Um, and his whole outlook, a redheaded Mexican. He's the redheaded stepchild. Man, that in itself sold it. Oh, look at this little redheaded stepchild kid fighting. Fighting out of Mexico. The story was just great. Just and his whole demeanor and his character. So I loved me some Saul too. So I ain't mad at him. Like I am mad at him. But I don't hate him. I am mad at him, but I don't hate him. This is boxing. Shit like this happens, man. But yeah. Let me read some messages. I feel like he has to be a killer if Crawford is fighting him. So you think that more like Errol Spence Jr., that kind of power and getting right to the point? To fight him like that, or more sitting down on your punches and backing him up? Not so much technique. All right. Is that what you're thinking? You know, um, Not to counterpunch, but to be the aggressor, and have him pushing back and hitting him with big shots. Like the fight that he fought against that Russian where Terence Crawford, remember, his gloves tore. Everlast had a malfunction in the gloves, and both his thumbs in the sewing, it was defective. and the thumbs popped open. Remember how he fought him? I can't remember his name right now, but remember how he fought him like that? Like that kind of aggression in Terence Crawford, or the 10th round of Sean Porter, that kind. I would like to see what you say. Yo, what's up, Mark? Listen, these guys are getting good coaching. These guys are getting good training. They're not looking like they used to. This guy got 10 fights. He got the WBA title, 154 pounds, for a reason. These guys are, they're starting to develop fast, So, look, as a matter of fact, let me pull up, right? Um, what was I? Because I would like to, what the hell, man? I just took, there it is. Yo, I took your messages off the screen. I almost was like, yo, I can't get them back up. Ah, see, this is what this does to me. What else you guys saying here? I'm gonna look up Israel's record. Don't let me forget that. What's up, Carlos? What's up, Snake Eve? What up, Mark? All right, how you guys doing out there? What the hell is going on with my message machine? Yeah, man. Mark, you know how I am with the names, man. I got to get more familiar with the name. But here at Round One Sports Talk, if you've been tuning in and watching me, you guys know, man, I murder people's names and I apologize for that. Every day I try to get better at it, but that's just me as an individual. I talked about that in one of my earlier episodes of how there was just a point in my life I wasn't taking down names and I didn't want to know your name to protect you from me, you know? And it was just that I was just like that. And I developed this thing of not pronouncing names for a while. And then I started doing this show and I'm getting better with it. The more fluent I am with the fighters and stuff. Shit, I mess up my own name. That's how bad it is. But so for more amazing fights that we have too, we also gonna get in May 18th. We're also gonna get another unification bout for undisputed status at the heavyweight division. That's a very exciting fight right there. We're gonna get a definitive king in the heavyweight division, and that's real big, because we haven't had undisputed king and the heavyweight division in almost 20 years or so. I'm not sure if we passed 20 years yet. I gotta look that up. I keep meaning to look that up. You know, um, and that's big because the heavyweight championship of the world is the biggest and best belt of all of boxing. Individually, people can say, well, Terence Crawford has more skill than Tyson Fury, so his belt should be considered better, right? Well, that's not how it works. The bottom line is, could Terence Crawford whoop Tyson Fury's ass right now? That's the bottom line when it comes to that. Put him in the ring right now. See what happens. Tyson Fury is going to knock out Terence Crawford eventually. That's what's going to happen. Naoya Inoue is one of the best skilled boxers, and he's probably going to go down. He's going to be in that kind of conversation as the greatest to ever do it. He will. He'll be in that kind of conversation when it's all said and done. I believe so. He's that kind of fighter, right? So Naoya Inoue couldn't fight Tyson Fury. In fact, No boxer could. Why? He's the heavyweight champion of the world. That's what that means. In boxing, he is at the biggest weight division, at the biggest size. He might not be the best skilled, he might not be the fastest, but tell any other champion in any other weight division to beat him. That's why it's the best belt in all of boxing. That's why. That's why the heavyweight championship is the most prestigious belt in all of boxing. Now, they went and made the pound for pound list to give credit to the men and women that are the best skilled. And heavyweight champions should never be put on the pound for pound list, ever. Because a heavyweight champion is not going to look like the guys in the glamour divisions. The glamour divisions, meaning from 108 pounds, you probably got the best skill in all of boxing. Those guys down there are probably the most fastest, skillful guys. They don't got no power. You go all the way up to the heavyweights, they might not be the best skilled, but you got all the power. Where boxing meets speed meets power at a nice blend is at 130, 135, 140, 147, and 154. Well, 147. Let's leave it right there. That's the glamour divisions. When they talk about glamour divisions, those are the divisions in boxing that are the best divisions in all the boxing. The best champ men and women, well, the best men in boxing come from those divisions right there. That's where you got the greatest fighters in the world. You got your Sugar Ray Leonards, your Marvis Haglers, your Floyds, your Oscars. I mean, the list will go on. I'll be here all night. That's where they fought in between right there. You got speed and power mixed in with real good skill, and the human body is able to perform real well right there. That's where many boxing experts and everything believe that that's where the best boxing happens, right there. And that's why they're called the glamour division, and they implement the heavyweight champion in that because of the fact of what it represents, the heavyweight championship of the world. Yeah. So so if when you think about it and you break it down like that, so look, that's why it's important for me. I love boxing, and I cover in this channel, and I can't wait who wins in that fight. For the future fights, I told you this year's theme on my channel from the beginning of the year, closing out 2023. I said it. My theme is be prepared this year to see your best fighter lose. And that's my theme for the entire year. And then 2025 is going to be one of the biggest boxing years. If you think 2023 was crazy, wait until we get into 2025. So, fight fans, listen, look, Mayweather and Bill Haney, sometimes Mayweather's money can cause him to forget the type of man he is sometimes in some moments. And men like that, they try to approach you and at a point, and say, yo, no, you know what? This time I really want to help you. But they don't forget all the times that I witnessed you being arrogant or treating somebody like shit or even trying to treat me like shit, right? It's like they forget about all that. Because people with money, you know, they just keep it pushing. They got money problems and money worries, but those ain't them. See? And when he's approaching Bill, he's got to realize that Bill's hurt. Bill's hurt in a lot of ways. In the way he feels embarrassed, the Haney family name, as well. All the shit they both talked, they didn't see this outcome being this bad. You see, And a lot of ridicule and criticism is going to come his way. So when Mayweather came and talked to him about this, his defenses were up. You know, he's hurt too. He's a prideful man, and he's going to lash out. I was a little taken back that a man that old, a father, is talking about street shit. Fuck you're 50 and old. This is street. I thought that was real. What do you mean, fuck is 50 and old? That's what we're talking about. Boxing. We're not talking about the street. Kudos for you for being a gangster in the street, right? But, uh, I get all that. I get all that. That's not where Floyd's from. That's not what Floyd's talking about. And that's not where this fight took place. It didn't take place in the streets. So why you bringing up the streets, Bill Haney? That wasn't a real good look for you. You throwing out your street credibility to beat your chest. What does that do for you? I get it. You don't want to kiss his ass, Floyd. And it's hard sometimes to take help from an arrogant man like that. Because I can pretty much know that, there were a lot of situations between him and Bill Haney, you know, but at the same time, Bill Haney has to recognize this all took place in a boxing ring, and you need to get your son the best help he can get. You know, um, it's not about swallowing your pride. You got the money to pay him. It's not like you're crawling to him. This is not a hand me out. This is the type of thing where you can work together. This is also a business. And as long as you keep it business and professional, you don't have to take shots at each other. This is not about Bill Haney and Floyd Mayweather. This is about Devin Haney's career and what you want to do to get him better. Setting aside your differences, lashing out each other, having a pissing contest on YouTube to show that you're not scared of him. So what? We're all men. We all bleed. You can get God like he can get God. We know that. If you're from the street, then you know that. You don't have to say it. You don't have to express the man that you are. Just walk with your head up. When people see you, tell me what you see. There's a lot of shit they talk about me. Oh, he's this, he's that. But when they see me, what do they see? I let that do my talking. That's it. That's it. Bill Haney, get your son some help. Listen, love you guys, fight fans. Look, I gotta learn how to work with this system. I know this message thing keeps popping in and out. Yo, what up, Carlos? I just got the messages back up while I was sitting here like talking. I was on the side doing my little thing. Mm. And what it's doing, it keeps going behind the thing, the other pictures that I got, but I got so many things open up. Yo, I'm getting it together. You know what I mean? And what you got to say, man? I thought people would defend against old man, no, bro, Hos- fucking names, bro. Yeah, something happened to the old man that I'm not too sure about. Something had to happen of him. Either he won that interim belt and lost his mind, but he wasn't ready to fight Pitbull anyway. So here comes Esau Pitbull Cruz. Rolly wasn't ready to fight the old man. The old man wasn't ready to fight Rolly, because the next man up was supposed to be the old man. It wasn't supposed to be Esau Pitbull Cruz, right? So he still has that interim belt. You see how I talked about be careful when you grab those interim belts? Because when's the last time you saw the interim champion fight the real champion? They make you promises. They tell you, yeah, you're the number one guy. Ask David the Monster Benavides how that works out for him. Yeah, you're the number one guy. Yeah, you got the interim belt. Yeah, you fight a title eliminator. You're still next in line. Yep. He's going to fight someone else. You're after him. Up, he's fighting somewhere else. You might just be after. You see? Shit happens in boxing. I don't know how we got this far without the old man. Where was he? So yeah, man. That's why fighters like this don't take those interim belts. And Tio didn't take that interim belt when he beat Josh Taylor and they try to put the green interim belt on his other hand. He learned his lesson from the first time, didn't he? And he didn't take it this time, did he? No, no, he wouldn't take that interim belt. Look, I'm not knocking interim belts, man, because that's a measure of success I've never achieved. So if you can get an interim belt, brother, congratulations. But you got to know how to manage situations like that in your career. Get the interim belt, get the clout you need. And then if you see there's a different fight, but that guy doesn't want to fight for an interim belt, he's got his eyes on the real one. But if you beat him, it'll put you in line for another different type of belt. That's when you make a decision to vacate it. You got it. You know that you're good enough to achieve that. It got you where you needed to be. Vacate that bitch and go after a real one. Or put yourself in position to throw a monkey wrench in someone else's plan. The number one and number two guys want to fight. You got the interim belt. You jump in, fight one of them guys. Now you're knocking on the door to a real world champion. It could catapult you, but you gotta know how to manage them. These guys grab interim titles and start throwing it up in the ring like they're real world championships, like Tank Davis. And then he had the nerve at that time, not the new improved Tank Davis. I want to mind you when I say this. At that time, Tank Davis was saying belts don't matter, but he had that interim belt wrapped around securely in his waist. And when he entered the ring in his fights, what they announced him as the WBA or the WBA or the IBF world champion, either belt he had, one over the other, right? And they would announce him like a world champion, but those were interim belts. The last real world title he won was the first ones at 130. Like, he won two of them at 130. So those were real world titles. But the one at 135 and the one at 140, those were interim. It's a good award. Like I said, there's nothing to be ashamed of winning an interim world championship. Shit, that's fucking good. I would love to fucking compete for an interim world title, right? But if I won that and I was young and I was in it, then I would want to learn how to manage one of those interim belts. That's not the kind of belt I want to attach myself to. In actuality, if you really want to talk about what you're supposed to do with an interim championship, the interim belt was presented when the champion couldn't perform, meaning either he was injured, he couldn't make the fight for whatever reason, and not to hold up the division. These guys were like, yo, so what if he broke his hand or his foot or caught a pneumonia? That's not my fault. I want to stay active, and I believe I deserve a world title fight. I've been chasing this guy for a while. So, out of, so much anticipation, they wanted to make the fight, and this guy ends up getting hurt. So what they did was they came up with an interim belt. They fought for the interim belt, and what's supposed to happen is the interim guy that got the interim belt, his very next fight, he's supposed to fight the world champion to do away with the interim belt. In actuality, you were never supposed to make a title defense on an interim world championship. How the fuck are you defending an interim belt? There's no fighter ever in the history of combat sports should defend. You're not a champ. What are you defending? You have a piece of a championship, which means that you're the interim, you're awarded the champion on your next fight. You're not supposed to defend interim titles like you're going on a campaign, a title run. But yet, here we are. There are hundreds of champions that are interim champions that every day go out and defend an interim championship. That boggles my mind because when interim belts were you know, entered into the sport, it was just to please that fighter, keep his name relevant, put the belt, show the champion, put pressure on the champion. Yo, he's holding a piece of your crown. You might want to straighten that out. Their next fight is we're supposed to get one champion. Now this guy got 10 title defenses on an interim belt. Yo, you defended an interim belt 10 times, 7 times, 5 times? Are you out of your mind? How are you? Oh my God. It's just, but they get away with it. They get away with it. Is the IBO belt on the line for Camboza versus Lomachenko? Listen, it could be on the line. Yes, it could. You know, the IBO is an organization that is making its way throughout boxing. It's not considered a real world title. In fact, I have talked about this before and I've campaigned for why don't the boxing sanctioning bodies recognize the IBO organization as interim belts? You know, you get the IBO interim and then you could go fight for a real world title or something. But don't make no more belts. Only 4 belts throughout the division. These 4. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. But these guys ain't gonna give up all that money. Hell no. You know how many interim belts they got floating around? They got the North Pacific interim, the international, intercontinental, the gold, the silver, the platinum, the uranium, the Lake Erie. Come on, they get attached too many names to those belts. There's just too many ways to sell it. So they're never going to do that. But back to the IBO. So I believe, I'm not sure if, I'll ever be alive to witness it. I came from a 3 belt era with Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was the last heavyweight undisputed champion of the world. I'm not sure he was the last. Sorry. Don't, I meant to look that up. But he was one of the most famous, right? Undisputed champions. But he didn't need the WBO. He didn't need the WBO to be considered at that time undisputed. He only needed 3. These 3. That's all you needed back then. When Oscar De La Hoya and Bernal Harpington fought in Madison Square Garden, to unify all 4 belts. In that very moment, I break it down to that fight was what gave the WBO its credibility finally. The WBO's been around in boxing for years. For years. There's been many champions that held the WBO title, like the Klitschko's. Marvis Hagler had one. There's been so many fighters that's had them. But you would have to go back in history and rewrite the history books if you gave those guys credits for those belts. Because, so at that time, that's when they consider it. So from that moment, going all the way up, it was announced a 4 belt era. And they finally joined and was accepted by the boxing world as a real world title. The IBO has to put in their time. No one really knows when, but it all depends on what kind of champion you have. And that's what really makes these belts, or the men and women that held them. You know, Mike Tyson never held the IBO. That's why it never, but had he held the WBO, it would probably make the WBO pretty prestigious now, wouldn't you? If you could wrap the IBO belt around Naoya Inoue's waist, then you got something. But he's never going to fight for that belt. You see? You know, you got to kind of get like a Tom Brady. Some kid that, like Stephen Kubo Fulton, he was an IBO champion. He vacated that belt once he became the WBC and the WBO champion at 122 pounds when he beat Brandon Figueroa. He vacated the IBO. He was once an IBO champion, Stephen Kubo Fulton. Yes, he was. And had he kept that belt and beat like Naoya Inoue in Japan, and every time he entered the ring, he would put that belt because this is how this works. Boxing is a business disguised as a sport, first of all, right? And there was a time in boxing, and it kind of still continues to today, right? That when the WBO is coming up, organizations like the WBC and the WBA and the IBS did not want their belt in the ring with this belt raised next to each other. In fact, other organizations throughout history, because fighters chose to fight for this belt, they stripped them of their belt. They said, okay, well, why don't you go be their champion? We'll take our belts back. That's what they did to those fighters. Yes, they have. They didn't want their belt raised next to this belt. Why? Because you have to keep your belts prestigious. What's stopping the fucking North Pacific Russian champion with his Russian belt get in the ring and put it next to these belts and declare himself a champion? What's stopping him from doing that? The only thing that's stopping him is that they wouldn't recognize it. They built boxing. They built this sport. These guys. The very first belt that ever came about was the WBA. Every other belt spun off of them, and they learned from them. They might got different rules, you know, but they were taught and it all came from their organization. Yeah. So one day we might see a five belt era. That would be pretty cool to see all five belts, right? In which, if you really come to think about it, we technically already have that in some boxing fans' eyes because you got the four major sanctioning bodies, then you got the Ringside Magazine and the Literal. So that's four, that's five and six. If a champion, those are all. So we kind of see that anyway. You eliminate the Literal and you make the IBO an official belt. You know, shit'll get fucking crazy, right? Right? More belts, more belts, No, the WBA was established, I think, in the 20s, bro, 30s, some shit like that. 1921 or something. It was dumb far long ago when the organization was. No, there was like a lot of other organizations before it. There was even a Black African League belt too. There were a lot of belts back then. Man, I would love to get myself on some of those relics, like some of those old belts, like the original belts and shit. Mike Tyson got an original belt, and in that picture right there, I know you can't see it, but he does. These were the newly improved ones where they started like clipping the pictures into it. Mike Tyson's one had two gold coins with the chains like that. Like the one that what was his name? Was it Riddick Bowe? Or who was it that threw the belt in the trash? He had the one with the chains on it. Um Big Daddy Riddick Bowe, right? Was that Riddick Bowe that did it? No. I got so many fighters in my head. I can't figure it out. You know what I mean? I can't see him right now standing there, but I remember he was putting the belt in the trash, and it was the one with the chains. Man, I would love to get some of them belts, man. Some of those like legendary old belts, 1950s, 19 like 40s and shit, where the guys were in the picture like this. Oh man. Oh, that would be so awesome, man. Yeah. Riddick Bowe, yes, Riddick Bowe. Oh, it was Riddick Bowe that did it. Those belts, those are like the original WBC World Title belts, man. Yeah, I like original shit. When I was gonna get a belt for the UFC, and they UFC came out with the new style with like the octagon and shit. I was like, man, fuck that, man. I want an original UFC belt, right? So I got the original UFC belt. It's always the first one for me and everything. You know what I mean? Like the new one is cool and everything, but I like the first one. You know what I mean? So if I could get my hand on one of those belts, one of them, oh my God. Oh man, that would be any of them, like a WBA from back then. So like, yeah, the main headquarters for let me see, I haven't thought of this in a long time. I think the Panama is the WBA, the IBF is headquarters in New Jersey, the WBC headquarters is in Mexico, and the WBO headquarters is in Puerto Rico. Yeah. So, fight fans, listen, guys. I always thought the WBA from Panama, WCBC was from Mexico, the WBO from Puerto Rico, and the IBF from America, which is in IBF in New Jersey. New Jersey. IBF main headquarters in New Jersey. Yeah. And the IBO, yeah. 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 That's how it goes. Yeah. To be honest, perfectly old school. Listen, that's been one of the biggest arguments nowadays in boxing. Just have one champion, a definitive champion, like one belt. But what happened was, we're going to go, if we were to do that again, we're going to realize our past mistakes and why we did this in the first place. There are too many boxers. There's thousands and thousands of men and women. They could be up to 1,000 men and women in one weight division. You know how long it would take that one guy to climb up to fight for one belt? And what if the guy's playing keep away or he's running it back and there are like three or four guys that are just keep fighting each other at the top because everybody really wants to see them fight? You know how long these guys would be waiting around? That's why they recognize the fact to make multiple belts. And then they made interim belts as well because there were some men and women that were really good, but there was always that guy in front of them, but you would have liked to see a belt around his waist. Let's invent interim world titles and we could still make them champions. The second guy, the number two guys. We can make all the number two guys world champions, plus have the number one guys. And they realized, and then they got to this point where we're at. That's what happened. We were at those points. And they were like, wait a minute, one guy can really hold up a division. But if you have four belts, you got four opportunities to be a world champion. And still, their greedy little asses weren't content with that. Once they saw that, they saw more opportunities. Oh, let's make the second guys all world champions. And here we are. Here we are. I do believe we should cut out a lot of these interim belts. Yeah, and we should utilize interim belts for what they really for. If the champion can't perform, then an interim belt will spring out. Once they meet, fight for the championship, the interim belt does away. It's like on the shelf for emergency purposes, only to be taken out in such a cases, and then they should fight each other their next fight. Something like that. Not that you can keep defending an interim belt and then keep putting names to that because it makes things very confusing. Yeah, it does. And you're sitting there watching him fight, and you're saying to yourself, "Yeah, Javante Davis is the world champion. You fucking look at the belt; it's around his waist." Meanwhile, not an official world champion. If Javante Davis was to take those two interim belts to the Hall of Fame, the metal detectors will go off. Yo, well, you got some bullshit there, bro. We don't give you recognition for interim world titles here at the Hall of Fame. We only give you acknowledgement for real world titles. We'll give you, we'll recognize that you got interim. We're gonna put this thing on the side of your championship belt. It's called an asterisk. Yeah, that belt comes with a controversy. Yeah, that means that you were not the champion. You know, it's simple. It's very simple when you think about it. If he's the champion and you're the interim champion, are you the man or you have to be the man? You have to be the man to beat the man, right? Am I right? You couldn't, so they're not going to allow them in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, and that's why I would like Javante Davis to start getting serious. He's getting a lot older in his career, and he needs to, like right now, he is legitimately the WBA 135-pound champion. He will be making a fight against Frank the Ghost Martin, and it will go down as a title defense. This is where Tank Davis solidifies the ritual, where he was alerted by an email that they wrote to him, and they informed him that he was now upgraded to the super champion of the WBA. As a champion, you have to go inside the ring and actually beat somebody to solidify your reign as champion. They have to award you that belt in the ring. You have to beat somebody. If something was to happen to Tank Davis tomorrow and he can no longer box, I'm not sure he gets credit for that belt. Who did he fight for the belt? A fax machine? Who did he fight for the belt? Because they texted it to him. He tell me who he beat for that belt. So as a champion, you gotta solidify your crown when situations like that arise. In certain situations, you remember when Tank said it about Devin Haney, and in fact, it's not like Devin Haney was the first boxer to ever be notified like that. No, he was like the 1 million boxer. Yeah, that happens all the time in boxing. In fact, it's happened a lot. Yeah, a fax machine dog. He didn't beat anybody for that belt. These are just facts that I'm saying, man. Am I saying anything wrong? No, right? And no, it's the truth. But sometimes people don't notice these things. And it's just the truth. You will not get my respect or who am I? Hey, but I know who you better impress, and that's those people in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, and I don't think they'll give you credit, you know. Yeah, you can't get credit from me. You didn't fight nobody. But he's gonna fight Frank the Ghost Martin, and this is gonna be a real test right here. So guys, listen, yeah, man. Yo, he's fighting that fax machine, baby. Hey, Jake Davis is like, yeah, put the belt around me, baby. They gave me the championship, bro. Yeah, it's like that. Modern day, yeah, he was maybe an 8-time world champion. Listen, look, Haney had a good run, but as quiet it was kept when you pull back the curtain on Devin Haney's legendary run, right? And what he did, you got to remember Devin Haney was emailed a belt because he punked Lomachenko for his belt, okay? And they nullified him that he was the WBC champion, but he went and made a title defense. He fought, I believe, with Linares, right? And he solidified himself as a champion. And then he technically only beat one guy for 3 belts, George Camboza. Now, do you guys think that that guy is like one of the elite 135 pounders at the time? Your credibility is coming from a fax machine and fighting one guy, technically. for Devin Haney. You see what I'm saying, man? So he was really like, he was in the right places at the right time and he won the fights he needed to win. Hats off for Devin Haney for being that young and pulling that shit off. What do you think what he did was easy? He went to fucking Australia and fought that man. That wasn't easy for the nerves and the people and the crowd. He shut them all up. He did his job, and I was proud of him on that night for us. And I was like, yeah, baby, bring them belts home. And he did it. So I can't take away what he did, but if as a boxer, I was trying to warn the public about that, and I was saying, no. Devin Haney's been in the right fights at the right time. He's not a polished fighter, and he's not quite where you guys want him to be, like a Floyd Mayweather, like a Terence Crawford. Devin Haney was never up there, but they were talking him up like he was. And I was over here saying, no, 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 Devin Haney's not there yet. He doesn't have his man strength. He has a lot of things he's got to work on. And that Ryan Garcia, like, look, I never want a man to lose to prove my point. And if I had to pick, it was a kind of a crazy situation where if you allow Ryan to win, it kind of solidifies all his crazy. And I didn't want the young man to get a win and even go even further out there. As for Ryan, right? I thought a loss would straighten him out, to teach him a lesson. But in fact, in his fuckery and smoking and drinking, doing it, he ends up winning. And I'm like, oh no, right? But at the same time, it also shows where what I was talking about Devin Haney, that he wasn't a polished fighter, and that's what why I watched my analyst I was telling me while I was watching him throughout his career. I noticed there were certain kind of fighters they were putting in front of him, certain quality of fighters, and there weren't things that I'd never seen before. Kudos to Devin Haney and his father, for dealing on that night and watching his son go down multiple times. That was one thing I spoke about Naoya Inoue, and people were like, "Well, what do you mean there's things you need to see about him? He's perfect." I was like, "No, not yet. There are things I've never seen with Naoya Inoue yet." And they were like, "What?" And I was like, "I've never seen him knocked down. How is his father and him going to react when he gets knocked down? How does he get up? How does he fight? How does he come back from a knockdown? How does he deal with adversity when he's hurt like that?" There was a lot of things that, he was hurt in the Donaire fight, that orbital bone, and he got his nose broken, I believe, too, as well. So there was a lot he was dealing with. So I seen him deal with adversity and pain, right? And I seen him stand strong, but there are certain things that when you're in, you won't know in a gym until you're in a fight. And it's like I said, you don't train in the gym and say, yo, today we're going to run out the knockout drill. The guy's going to punch you in the face. You're going to go down. You're going to look at me. I'm going to say, hey, then you're going to get up. And then you're going to clear your head and you're going to fight. Now, beep, go. That's not a drill you run in the gym. You got to find that out when it happens. So there's certain things that I need to see unfold. And there's certain things that I really don't need to ever see. If I never get to see it, never got to see it, right? But if it does happen, I'm going to be like this. Now I want to see. I always talk about this. Listen, when everything's going good and the night is going good for you and you're flowing, you got this guy backed up. You can see it in his eye. You already got him beat. You're shining on him. But what happens when you have to come back? When you've been down in the fight, when you know you're behind in the scorecards, when your corner is yelling at you, and you gotta think about something and you gotta make adjustments. Let me see what you about, because I'm gonna be like this. Because the world's gonna be watching, and it's gonna be up to you to perform. you know? So, fight fans, listen, we've been kicking it up, chopping it up. Man, it's always good to talk boxing. I'm trying this new system right now, and for the most part, it's working. Let's see how everything else, even though my messages are not like, oh, I did that. Yes, I did. I guess you're not supposed to shrink the box yourself because it cuts your. I'm I'm learning, guys. Listen, fight fans, I love you guys. It's been an amazing show. Thank you for tuning in, staying up with me, talking boxing, giving me feedback and making it interesting. So fight fans, I'm on to the next one after this one here on Round One Sports Talk. Have a good night, be good to each other, and God bless.